This administration knows full well they are breaking the law. They are showing us all in plain view their goal is to do irreparable damage as much as possible, as fast as possible.
Señores, hoy vamos a hablar de un escándalo que muchos medios han pasado por alto. Y es cómo la administración de Donald Trump ha ignorado las leyes. Cómo es que han bloqueado fondos que estaban destinados a salvar vidas. Y de paso ha aprovechado todo esto para debilitar la posición de los Estados Unidos en el mundo. Sean bienvenidos a Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Hoy veremos cómo la demócrata Patty Murray ha denunciado una toma ilegal de poder por parte de Donald Trump. Todo esto frente al Congreso. Así que los invito a que me acompañen hasta el final de este video porque veremos los momentos más interesantes. Perfecto, amigos. La protagonista de esta denuncia es la senadora de Washington, Patty Murray, quien denunció este escándalo en el Senado de los Estados Unidos. Hemos visto en otras ocasiones, no solo a esta senadora, también otras demócratas como Jasmine Crockett, lo hemos visto a Jamie Raskin, pero en esta ocasión en especial me ha interesado muchísimo, ya que ella expuso con claridad cómo es que la administración de Donald Trump ha ignorado completamente al Congreso. Terminó violando la ley y por último dejó sin fondos a programas que son cruciales. Quiero que me acompañen a que veamos todo este discurso que se dio en el Senado el día de ayer y cómo la senadora demócrata Patty Murray lo ha dicho con bastante claridad. Luego de esto, analizaremos todos los puntos. Veamos este video.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I come to the floor today to make a simple point. The law cannot be in the eye of the beholder. The law is the law. But yet again, we are seeing the Trump administration break the law. Many of us have been closely following the Trump administration's illegal freeze of congressionally appropriated funding, including of foreign aid, not just from the State Department, but also from USAID, the African Development Foundation, Inter-American Foundation, and other independent agencies. Each of those agencies' existence as an independent entity has long been enshrined in statute and reaffirmed by bipartisan majorities in both chambers year after year in annual appropriations. Our appropriations law also explicitly requires the administration to notify and consult with Congress before undertaking any efforts to reorganize, realign, or downsize foreign affairs agencies, as the sweeping reductions in force issued last week and many other brazen actions we've seen clearly seek to do so. The administration's actions, including firing the USAID Inspector General and the state IG, will make waste and fraud more likely and will prevent even foreign assistance programs allegedly supported by the administration from being effectively implemented, and will also effectively block hundreds of millions of dollars for other programs enacted into law by bipartisan majorities. Needless to say, the Trump administration has not consulted or notified Congress about these changes. That is in violation of the law. But this week, they took a further step. The Trump administration has chosen to spit in the face of the law and Congress, expressing total disdain for a court order mandating they release the foreign aid funding they had illegally withheld. When finally told they must comply, Secretary Rubio personally approved the termination of 90% of the USAID programs and 60% of State Department programs virtually overnight. They terminated more than $58 billion in multi-year programs and have told us they have no intention of utilizing those funds. The termination of those awards is absolutely not what Congress intended. Congress appropriated the funding on a bipartisan basis with the express intent to see those dollars spent. This is not trivial stuff. We're talking about resources that often mean the difference between life and death, resources that are imperative, not just because they are life-saving, but because they are an investment in our own national security and in U.S. businesses. Let's take Ebola, for example. USAID helps other countries around the world respond to and contain Ebola outbreaks. That's pretty darn important because there is no known cure for Ebola. Thanks to the good work of USAID along with our international partners, often supported by USAID awards, we have never had an Ebola outbreak here at home. Yesterday, at President Trump's cabinet meeting, Elon Musk even admitted that, yes, we want to fight Ebola. Of course, then he said, accidentally, cut USAID's Ebola prevention efforts that it had been restored with no interruption. Yet, Mr. President, we know for a fact that is a lie. U.S.-based companies implementing these programs received termination notices yesterday. Any basic accounting of USAID's capacity to stop outbreaks abroad shows quite plainly any disease prevention efforts supported by the U.S. at this point are merely symbolic. You cannot break the foundation of public health systems overseas and expect that it won't have a damaging impact here at home. This makes America less safe. If Ebola, Marburg, or any other infectious disease makes it to our shores, it will be thanks to Elon and Trump, two billionaires without a clue who are positively smug about their own ignorance. But it's not just our infectious disease response that has now been gutted. Everything from resources to help prevent kids from getting malaria, to aid for refugees in war-torn places like Syria, where it is directly in our national security interest to foster stability. And it's not just resources for faraway places. This will hit home in blue and red states, U.S. universities in my home state, in Indiana, in Florida, in Texas, and other states have had their partnerships terminated. Mr. President, American students from across our country that are now participating in exchange programs overseas are impacted by this. To put it into perspective for my colleagues, 5,800 of 6,300 USAID grants and contracts are being terminated. That is 9 out of 10. And that is not to mention 4,100 of 6,800 State Department grants and contracts. And the only detail we have is from the NGOs, faith-based organizations, and U.S. contractors sending these termination notices to our committee. We do not have one shred of detail from the State Department, not one shred. The scale is staggering, and it shows you that this administration's scheme is to bulldoze right through restraining orders and court orders so that by the time the law does catch up with them, the damage will have been done. Compliance is easy at that point. What's left to fix once you've burned everything to the ground? This administration knows full well they are breaking the law. They are showing us all in plain view their goal is to do irreparable damage as much as possible, as fast as possible. Well, I'm here today to sound the alarm because this illegal power grab is in direct violation of congressional intent and appropriations laws. The Supreme Court should act with haste to bring this administration to account and ensure that money Congress appropriated gets to where it was intended. Whether it's President Trump or Elon Musk or the Secretary of State calling the shots, Congress has no visibility into DOJ's actions, frustrating our ability to write funding bills when government funding runs out in weeks.
Ok, amigos, ahora que vimos todo el discurso, quiero que hablemos claro. Esto no se trata de un simple error administrativo, tampoco se trata de un malentendido, ¿cierto? Estamos hablando de un gobierno que decidió unilateralmente ignorar una orden del Congreso. Y lo peor aún, desafió una sentencia judicial que prácticamente lo obligaba a liberar esos fondos. Eso, señores y señoras, tiene un nombre, y es abuso de poder. Para los que no lo sepan, en Estados Unidos el Congreso es el que prácticamente tiene el control del presupuesto, ¿no? Básicamente, lo que evita que un presidente haga lo que le dé la gana con el dinero de los contribuyentes. Aún así, Donald Trump decidió que las reglas no aplican para él. Eso, amigos, no solo es un problema legal, es un problema hasta de moral. Esos fondos estaban destinados a programas de salud, estaba en contra de la lucha del ébola, ayuda humanitaria en zonas de conflicto. Hablamos de que cortar ese financiamiento no solo es un capricho, es literalmente una decisión que puede costar vidas. Tenemos también otro personaje en escena, ¿no? Que es Elon Musk. Y resulta que en una reunión él dijo que quería combatir el ébola. Pero al mismo tiempo, la administración de Trump estaba eliminando los programas de prevención de la enfermedad. Entonces, ¿en qué quedamos, no? O sea, ¿queremos combatir epidemias o solo nos gusta hacer grandes anuncios, no? Ahora, algunos defensores de Trump podrían salir y decir, bueno, él solo estaba tratando de hacer el gobierno más eficiente, ¿no? Reducir estos gastos innecesarios, etc. Pero amigos, aquí está el problema. No se trata de eficiencia, se trata de prioridades. Si realmente se quisiera optimizar el gasto, se habría hecho primero un análisis detallado de cada programa, pero en lugar de eso lo que hicieron fue directamente un recorte masivo y sin sentido. Mientras Estados Unidos se retira y deja un vacío, ustedes saben quiénes están listos para ocupar ese espacio. Hablamos de China, hablamos de Rusia. O sea, cortar la ayuda internacional no hace que Estados Unidos automáticamente se vuelva más fuerte. Lo hace irrelevante en el escenario global. Y supuestamente Donald Trump afirma que quiere hacer Estados Unidos grande otra vez, ¿no? Bueno, en resumen, no solo es un tema de burocracia o política partidista. Es un abuso de poder. Y es uno que termina afectando la vida de millones de personas. Es un desprecio total por el Congreso de los Estados Unidos y por las leyes del país. Y es una estrategia que, lejos de hacer a Estados Unidos grande de nuevo, termina debilitándolo frente al resto del mundo. Pero bueno, quiero saber qué opinan ustedes. ¿Creen que Donald Trump tenía razón en bloquear esos fondos? ¿O hablamos de que hizo una jugada muy peligrosa e irresponsable? Los invito a que me dejen sus comentarios, sus opiniones. Amigos, hemos llegado hasta el final de este video. Como siempre, muchísimas gracias por acompañarme. Recuerden que si me quieren apoyar, regálame un like, comparte este video y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Políticamente en desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.